Jumping into Assassin's Creed Mirage was like getting back on a bike after many years. As soon as I started, I thought, all right, this is how the series used to play. And honestly, I loved it. Going back to the roots was something the devs promised and something I expected from this game. But the question is, why does the Assassin's Creed franchise need this kind of nostalgia marketing? And is nostalgia enough to revive an arguably dying franchise? Before we dive into the case of Assassin's Creed Mirage, I think it's interesting to mention how nostalgia marketing has become such a big thing in recent years. Assassin's Creed Mirage is not an isolated example and is actually part of a much broader phenomenon. When I say nostalgia marketing, I mean using positive childhood memories to sell a product. When exposed to this kind of marketing, consumers relive positive emotions they experienced as children and will feel drawn to the product. Nostalgia marketing has been everywhere in recent years, from movies to fashion. Literally everything is getting a remake these days. And the reason is, it really works, especially with millennials. Millennials as a generation are especially prone to nostalgia because, contrarily to post-war generations like the boomers, the world they experienced as kids was arguably a better place than the world they live in now. When it comes to video games, most big franchises are pretty formulaic to their original spirit, and Ubisoft is no exception. This is true to the point that many new releases just feel like old releases repackaged.
I said what I said, and I'm not changing on it, okay?
The reason why Assassin's Creed Mirage heavily relied on nostalgia for its marketing is pretty simple. The new games are far less popular and influential than the old ones. The Assassin's Creed series has been going strong for 15 years and has a total of 13 games, but somehow no one really cares about the last 7 of them. This is largely because Ubisoft decided to move from a focused, stealth-based action game to an open-world RPG-style game with never-ending main quests and overwhelmingly big maps where skill trees became so prominent you could just build the ultimate Spartan character and hack your way through every mission like it was God of War or Dynasty Warriors. Many felt Assassin's Creed's identity was lost, and its strong points traded for some dubious and pretty generic game mechanics. However, the most recent entry, Mirage, has a simpler, stripped-down skill tree and heavily relies on stealth and social stealth, which is the way an assassin would realistically behave, and also what made the game so special in the very beginning. Much more like the OG Assassin's Creed games, in Mirage I had to really spend time investigating areas. Speaking with people to dig up information on my targets, and picking pockets was also essential to making discoveries. These tidbits would help me plan ahead for the big assassination missions, which was important because I couldn't just run in swinging my sword around and hope to survive. Because of all these elements, I felt like, yes, it was not just marketing. Mirage does actually feel like going back to the old games. When Basim is initiated into the Assassin Brotherhood, he cuts his finger off, and it reminded me of the conversation that Ezio had with Leonardo da Vinci in Assassin's Creed 2. Da Vinci had modified the hidden blade so that sacrificing a finger was no longer necessary to use it. So there are these little throwbacks like that to the series' history, which I liked in Mirage. In Assassin's Creed Mirage, I felt more like a detective stalking the shadows than an overpowered warrior. And that's something every longtime follower of the series will appreciate. While the gameplay might be a big step away from Valhalla, the plot of Assassin's Creed Mirage ties into the last game more directly. The beautiful graphics also resulted in a very immersive experience. Whether I was on horse or camelback, swimming or scaling a building, everything looked vibrant and detailed. And the game returns to the urban setting that put it on the map, with parkour options that focus mostly on architecture rather than nature. And for history nerds, being able to learn about historical sites around Baghdad like this one, is definitely a plus. The problem with nostalgia marketing is that if overdone, it prevents games from evolving. Looking at you, Code Classic. And while sometimes sticking to a successful formula is a good choice, studios also need to be able to balance this feeling of familiarity with exciting new elements that keep players interested. Regardless of how much of a hardcore fan you are, you can't just keep buying the same game over and over and be happy with it. Yeah, unless you're a FIFA fan, I guess. I think for us as players, it's important to look at games beyond them just being parts of long-running series, and to really ask ourselves the question, if someone who has not familiar with Assassin's Creed and has never played any other game in the franchise before randomly picked up Mirage and started playing it, would they enjoy it? And if not, does that mean players who never liked Assassin's Creed will never buy the new games? And does that mean studios actually have to create games just for that dwindling, loyal audience?